What's up, everybody? I've been waiting. Y'all have no idea how long I've been waiting to make this video. I mean, it's been years. Um, this is from days gone by, but I still have to make this video just to say that I did. Um, those of you who are thinking of getting into law enforcement, once upon a time I worked in law enforcement. I was a corrections officer for about 3.5 years. I worked at two different camps. Basically three, but mostly two. I worked at a camp in Virginia, and I worked at a camp in North Carolina. I'm not going to tell you what they were because it doesn't matter. Um, so if you're young, like I was young when I got into it. I think I was like 27, 28 when I went to the first camp. And that's the other thing. When you get into the prison world, nobody calls it prison. They call it camp. That's just how it is. But the first camp I worked at was in Virginia, and I want to start by saying no two states are going to be the same. Like the difference between Virginia and North Carolina was like day and night. I mean, it was ridiculously different. And I ended up getting myself in a whole bunch of trouble because I worked in North Carolina. That was the second camp I worked at. But I got myself into so much trouble and had to learn so many hard lessons when I first started in North Carolina because my brain was trained as Virginia. You know, they trained me a totally different way. And the other thing I should say is if you've never worked in a prison before, don't try to avoid any prison that's like really old. Because I'm making a huge point here. The first prison I worked at in Virginia was built around like 1925. So all those stereotypical prison movies that you watch, the way they're all designed and stuff, you know, that was actually that was my experience. But the second prison I worked at was built around 2008, 2010, completely different environment. Those bar doors that you're used to seeing, they don't make those anymore. They don't use those anymore because they're a huge liability. You know, people can throw things through them, throw piss and all sorts of stuff through them. They're a huge liability. Nobody builds modern day prisons with those bar doors anymore. The other thing is the reason why a newer prison is better for you because it's got all that technology built into it. That if you don't know. It's going to make your life so much easier every day. It just is. But anyway, it's kind of hard to make this video because when I got into it, it was completely different times. You know, that woke junk didn't exist. The defund the police junk didn't exist. It was just a completely different time. I got into it around when I think Obama was in office, but that has nothing to do with it. But anyway, it was a completely different time. And nowadays, looking back, like I don't regret doing it because I learned so many things and it made me who I am today. It made me way tougher than I was back then. I mean, the stuff I saw and the things I experienced, it just made me, you know, tougher as a man, you know, and I appreciate that. I appreciate that experience. You know, it's like the guys who join the military or the police to go out and experience things, you know, they're not doing it because they're totally in love with it. Maybe they are. Hey, that's cool. But they want to have an experience. They want to have, you know, stories and experiences that they can talk about when they're old, you know, and I totally appreciate all that. I totally respect that, you know, because I never joined the military. A lot of my family has. I got 3 brothers, one's still in, but that wasn't my story. I never joined the military because when I was young, all I cared about was partying. And like around when 9/11 happened, I was like 19 years old. I didn't want to think about the military. All I cared about was partying, you know. And I'm kind of glad that I didn't because when you put yourself in certain situations, especially I'm going to talk about the prison specifically, you don't realize what you really got going on in here until somebody puts you in a prison environment. You don't know who you are. I promise you, you don't know who you are and what you really have going on inside your head until somebody puts you in a prison environment as a CO. You know, gives you the authority, explains all the rules. You're going to find out what kind of person you really are. And I'm not trying to talk big about myself or anything like that. I'm not trying to brag. I'm just trying to tell you what my experience was. When I first got in there, I was so determined to do a good job and do everything right by the rules, which is good. You always, you want to do right. You want to stick to the rules. You want to, you want to be an honest, good officer, But there's kind of a catch to that, because in my head, I was determined not to be taken advantage of. And they tell you when you get into training, when you first start, they say, that face you put on when you first walk through the gate for the first time and you meet everybody and the inmates see you, that's the face you need to keep your entire career. You can't just be this person one day and that person the next day. It doesn't work like that. So me, I was like, okay, this is the guy I'm going to be. I'm not taking grief off nobody. I don't care. Yeah, I'm not a big guy. I'm like 5'5". Like back then I was like 145 pounds. I don't look like it now, but I was a lot better physically fit back then. I'm 40 years old, so whatever. This is when I was in my 20s and early 30s. But anyway, if you want to be the nice guy, that's fine. Be the nice guy. I mean, there's plenty of COs that are like that, and you're going to get messed with, I promise you. But inmates, they want to see the same face every day. They want consistency. Because when you're an inmate in the same environment, inmates, they need consistency. That's the only thing that promotes a healthy environment for them. They need to eat the same meal or eat 3 times a day at the same time. They want the same yard time. They want everything done at the same time. That's what they want, And I'm glad I said it like that, because I didn't even think about it until I just said it. You as an officer, you need to be consistent in everything. Don't enforce rules on this guy and not enforce them on that guy. If you're going to write this guy up for doing something, you need everybody. I mean, that rule applies to everyone, right? So always be consistent with everyone. And as much as I really hate talking about this as a white guy, you're racist. Sorry. If you're going to do your job, you're racist. It's just how it is, And in your heart, you know who you are. Don't worry about what these guys say about you. Who cares? I mean, as long as you're being honest, as long as you're not breaking policy, you're not doing anything that's breaking the law, breaking policy, who cares? Most of these inmates, they all act like crybabies. That's just how they are, But you got to ask yourself, how would you be if you were in that environment, But like I said, just as long as you're doing everything by the book, and that's the other thing. When you first get on to your post, oh my God, grab that policy book and read it like the Bible. Read the whole thing front to back, everything. Be that guy. They can call you a policy hack, but anybody that wants to quiz you on policy, you're going to know it. And these inmates are going to come at you every single day. They're going to be like, no, you're not allowed to do that. You're not allowed to do that, and I can do this. As long as you know the policy, you're bulletproof, man. Not actually bulletproof. But, they can't say anything to you. And they're going to argue with you all the time, every single day. And that's the other thing. I hope you got patience, dude. I hope you got thick skin. You like arguing and raising your voice all the time, because you better get used to it. That's just how it is. But, like I said, it's been years since I did it, but I wanted to make this video. But you're probably still wondering what was the difference between Virginia and North Carolina. Well, the difference between Virginia and North Carolina was, in Virginia, I was working at a really old prison. Old prisons don't have technology. They're designed and operated the way that they were built. You can't pump 2023 technology into a building that was built in 1920. It's hard. It's almost impossible, right? So back in, 2010, 2011, when I was working there, there's no cameras in there. So you can get away with everything. And trust me, the COs, they take advantage of it. Whether it's beating up on an inmate or smuggling in contraband, which if you're the type of person that's going to smuggle in contraband, don't do this job. Trust me, you are making a huge problem for yourself. Don't do it. If I, as an officer, if I would have caught you doing that, I would have threw you under the bus 100 times. I would have brought you back to life just to throw you under the bus again. Don't do it. It's not worth it. You know, I used to hate officers that did that. When they got caught, I'd laugh so hard because you're stupid, you know? But anyway, the second camp that I worked at, like I said, it was built in 2010, had all this technology, cameras everywhere, yada, yada, yada. You can't get away with anything. So they held you, and I wasn't used to this because the staff, the stripes, hold you to a much higher regard than they hold the inmates. I had to learn the hard way. My first month on the job, I was only there for like a few weeks. I wasn't even certified yet. And that's weird because in Virginia, they send you to to training, basic training and everything. You get certified, you're ready to go. And then after you get out, they make you work with FTO, that means field training officer, on every single post in the prison. That means working the front gate. I mean, everything. You name it. If there's a post, you're going to work that post for at least one day until you can say that you did it. And that way you have experience in all areas of the prison, or at least you could say you did for one day, right? And then they check you off in a book. They're like, okay, he did this, he did this, he did this. And once you're done, then they set you free, and then they put you on a post, and then you're done, right? Well, North Carolina was a little bit different. See, they gave you the job, they gave you a uniform, and then they stuck you on a post, but you didn't have any training. They didn't send you to basic or anything, so you're not certified, right? So anyway, yeah, and it's usually like, and I don't know how it is now in North Carolina, but it was like 3-4 months before I even got sent to basic, which was so dumb. Because you shouldn't even be around inmates if you're not certified. If you don't have training, you shouldn't be nowhere near inmates. That is a huge liability. You know, I can't believe the state lets them do it. I mean, that's just stupid. When I was in Virginia, the only place I worked was SEG. I think the only place I worked was SEG because you're not really around the inmates too much. They're locked up 23 hours a day, you know? And all I did was hand out trays and saw a bunch of disgusting stuff. You know, you can only imagine. But anyway, in North Carolina, it was my first few months on the job, or my first few weeks, I'm sorry. And long story short, this inmate was doing something he wasn't supposed to be doing, and I kind of grabbed him by his arm and corrected him real quick. That's a long story short because it doesn't matter. And anyway, back then I didn't know that much. I didn't know anything about policy. I didn't know about use of force. I didn't know anything about that. And long story short, if you touch an inmate for any reason, I don't care. If you grab him, touch him anyway, that's called use of force. You have to write it down. You have to write it down. Otherwise, I guarantee you it's going to come back in your face. I guarantee you it's going to lead to an investigation. You're going to get yourself in a bunch of trouble, you know. And anyway, that was the story, you know. So having said all that, I guess I'm trying to put 3 years of knowledge into a 15-20 minute video, you know, so bear with me. I guess going back to being the same person every day, officers, and this is so serious, officers are disgusting. There's some good COs, but you're going to run it like 70% of them they're shit. I'm sorry, they're garbage. They're either lazy, they rarely show up to work, they smuggle in contraband, they snitch on you for doing your job because they don't want to be associated with, like, they're so afraid of these inmates. You know, they're scared to death. I don't know why they do this job. They shouldn't even be anywhere near a prison if you're just that scared of doing your job. You know, you got to be on the lookout for those people. There's going to be, like, I was the guy, I didn't love doing my job. I hated that job. But I was not afraid to do my job. You know, I was determined to let these inmates know that I wasn't afraid, even if it meant me getting hurt or whatever. And I'll tell you that I was assaulted numerous times, like 3 or 4 times. You know, I got in a bad fight with an inmate the last week I was on the post. You know, and that's going to happen if you do your job. And you build up enough reputation. Trust me, these inmates are going to test you. You bet. I hope you work out. I hope you know how to take care of yourself. And I'm not trying to scare you. That's just how it is. It's a prison. It's not supposed to be fun, you know. But I'm not, like I said, I'm not trying to scare you. Do your job, because if you don't, it's actually going to make it worse for you. You know, they're going to think you're a punk. They're not going to listen to anything you say. The one time you get up out of your chair and say, hey, you do this, you do that, they're going to laugh at you because they know you ain't going to do nothing. You know, they're not scared of you. But if you build a reputation as a guy that doesn't take flack off of nobody, they will listen to you. It'll take a while before they learn. You'll have to write up 50 or 60 of them before they actually learn, but they will, I promise you. And there's always going to be that one guy that just doesn't listen to anything you say. That's just how he is. And don't take it personal. He's just not all there, right? But the majority of them, they will learn and give you respect. But like I said, you have to treat them all the same. Don't be showing favorites. Don't do it, man. I'm telling you, they will call you out in 5 seconds. And read up on PREA, P-R-E-A, Prison Rape Elimination Act. If you don't know what that is, you damn well better know what it is. I'm dead serious, because that can get you in trouble real quick. And learn that if you're going into a prison thinking you have all these rights and yada yada yada, and you believe everything you see on TV, trust me, you're about to find out. Because a lot of these inmates, they got more rights than you do when they're they got more rights in there than they do on the street. It's ridiculous. You know, it got so bad, the camp I was working at, because they called it what do they call it? A medical camp. That's like a PC term for loony bin, you know? Because nowadays they don't have the what you call loony bins from back in the day. They don't have those anymore. You know, they don't. They mix them into the prison populations. Or sometimes they have little psychiatric wards in some places like hospitals and stuff, but the majority, those don't exist anymore. And that was when the assaults started happening a lot. Because being around crazy inmates, and I mean legit crazy, like they're nuts in the head, those people are the biggest liability, because they're easy for the regular inmates to manipulate, you know? I feel like I was just doing this yesterday. I can't believe I'm talking about all this. But anyway, like I said, don't be scared. If it's something you really want to do, even if it's for a year, or maybe you're using this as like a stepping stone because you want to join the police department. Hey, it's awesome. We need more police officers. We need good police officers, you know? Or maybe you just got out of the military and you're like, I don't know what to do. I have no skill. I spent the last 4 years in the military. I don't know what to do, you know? Try it. I'm not telling you not to. I'm just telling you what to expect. And the other thing is, no two camps are the same. So one camp might be, it might be okay. It's not going to be fun. I can guarantee you that much. But it might not be as bad as this one, you know? I mean, I knew a guy I worked with. He was like, man, I worked at like 9 prisons. I was like, Jesus, why? What the hell? Why would you work at that many? You know, like, I would have given up after 3. I worked at. See, it's funny because I worked at the one, but the second one had a minimum camp across the street, which I worked there for like a month or so. So I kind of worked at 3, but basically it was 2. Okay, here's a good piece of advice. When you're sitting in the interview talking to whoever's interviewing you, try to get guaranteed salary. Like in North Carolina, they have Correction Officer 1 pay, Correction Officer 2, and Correction Officer 3. If you even have a little bit of experience, and let me tell you this, they are hurting. They're hurting all the time for COs. They don't really have a leg to stand on. If you have a clean record, they'll hire you. Trust me, because no one wants to do the job. So when you go into the interview, you say, hey, I'll do it for CO3 pay or I'm not doing it. And if you don't like it, I'll just go somewhere else, look for a job somewhere else. There's probably like an 80% chance they're going to hire you and give you CO3 pay. You know, I guarantee you that you'll probably get it. If you know how to talk and sell yourself, you'll probably get it, because it is not worth it. When the camp I worked at in North Carolina, I was getting CO1 pay, but only for like a couple of months. And then I quickly got CO2 pay because of the way the state adjusted its salary or something back then. I don't know. It doesn't matter. But the guys on the other side of the prison, see, I was working in the medium section. The guys on the other side of the prison working in the maximum were making CO3 pay. for putting up with the same inmates that I put up with. I'm like, what, your life is more valuable than mine? You somehow work more than I do? Like, no. Because what you don't understand is that these inmates are constantly going back and forth from one side of the prison to the other. If they're in the medium side and they could commit a bad enough infraction, they stick them over there on the maximum side for 3-6 months, something like that. And then one day they just magically come back. So why are they getting paid more for dealing with the same person I was dealing with? You know, that's not right. That's stupid. So, like I said, when you go in there, try to get the most pay that you possibly can. Especially if you have military experience. Don't take no for an answer. Be like, look, I just got out the Marines, Army, whatever. I need a gig, blah blah blah. I'm not doing it for less than this. Sorry. If you don't like it, just don't go. And another piece of advice. If you're thinking about working in a jail, I've never been in a jail before. I've worked prisons, period. I've never been in a jail. But one thing I can tell you that I know for sure is that a jail is, the easiest way to explain it is, you just arrested somebody, just came right off the street. They're not in any way adjusted or adapted to that environment yet. So you're basically training a puppy, you know, that's pissing and shitting all over the floor, you know. But if you go to the prison, you're working with a dog, and I'm not calling them dogs, but I'm trying to this is a metaphor. Anyway, you're working with a dog that's already trained, you know. He doesn't piss and poo all over the floor. He goes outside. He knows the time to eat every day. He knows when the bathroom time is. You know, it's so much easier. It's not easy, but it's easier than working in a jail. You know, and like I said, I'm not calling them dogs, but that's just the best metaphor I could come up with. But anyway, trying to think of some other stuff to tell you. Okay. You're going to get these inmates, and it's almost always 90% of the time a pedophile or a rapist. These guys are the most charming people you will ever meet. That's just that's how most of them come off. You're going to be like, why is this guy in prison? I don't understand, man. I mean, he seems like a really nice guy. He's, you know, he laughs, jokes. He's, you know, he's the center of attention. He seems like such a nice guy. And then you look at why he's in there, and you're like, oh my God, that's disgusting. You know, I have no idea. I can't explain it. I'm not a psychologist, man, but it always seems like the guy that's in there for raping little kids or his girlfriend or something is always trying to be that charming, fun personality. I have no idea why. It's just how it is. And then you're going to have guys like, say, for example, I had a guy that was in there, no lie, his sentence was like 999 years or something. He was in there for, he carjacked some guy and set him on fire. It was just a bunch of disgusting stuff. But the point I'm trying to make is that the one that's like super quiet and leaves you alone, don't go looking for trouble with that guy, man. Just leave him alone. If he doesn't bother you, just leave him alone. Don't just pretend he doesn't even exist. Because the worst, and I mean the very worst inmates, are the guys that are going to leave you alone. They're the ones that they're super quiet. They just want to be left alone. They know when it's time to eat. They know when it's yard time. They know everything. You know, they've probably been in prison for a long time. You know, so just leave them alone. Don't even talk to them unless they talk to you. If they come up to you, just be respectful. Yes, sir. No, sir. And another thing, man. Oh God, I can't believe I almost forgot this. Don't cuss at the inmates. In regular conversation, you're just talking about sports, you know, that's whatever. But if you're talking directly to them, like trying to counsel them or something, don't cuss at them. That is a really bad idea. I'm telling you, because that ignites something in their head that makes them feel like they need to defend themselves. And that's the same on the street, you know. If you're talking to me or you're talking to somebody and you're like, hey, blah, 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 F this and F that, the person's going to be like, whoa, why are you talking to me like that, man? It's definitely the same in prison. So if you're trying to counsel an inmate, don't cuss at them. And try to rationalize with them. You got to remember, your job is to correct them. You're a corrections officer. So try to explain it to them in a way you think they're going to understand, you know? And don't like yell at them. Don't take it personal, because they're going to test you. They're going to test you all the time. One big thing inmates love to do is they'll go up to Officer Jones and say, hey, can I do this at this time? And you're like, no. So then they'll go up to Officer Smith. They'll ask him the same thing. He'll say no. And they'll just keep on asking one officer after the next until they get the answer they want to hear. They do it all the time. They do it every single day. That's just the way it is. And you'll see them. Watch, okay, this officer, they'll be jumping from one to the next, asking them the same question until they hear the word or the answer they want. And the other thing is, you'll catch them doing something, and they'll say, "Oh, well, Officer Jones said it was okay." The first thing that out of your mouth needs to be, "I'm not Officer Jones, and I don't care what the hell he does." All right, I'm telling you, right? So stick to your guns. Always stick to your guns. Don't worry about what the other officer did. So like I said, some of these officers are completely worthless. You know, some of these officers, like, I wouldn't piss on them if they're on fire. They're completely worthless. You know, I don't even know why you come to work. All you do is just sit there. You know, the ones, and you'll know it. You'll know it if you have any bit of decency, any bit of discipline. You're gonna know who those people are pretty quickly. If you can read people, especially you military guys, you're gonna know those guys like in the first day, right? Because most of them are like 80, 90, 100 pounds overweight because they just eat out of the canteen all day long, like chips and all sorts of garbage. I never ate that stuff ever, right? Because I'm like, I want to stay in decent shape. Like if I ate like that, I'd be a freaking whale, you know. But anyway, just always like I said, stick to your guns. Be the same guy or woman every single day. Oh, and don't get involved with COs like sexually outside of the. Don't do it, man. I'm telling you. Oh, this could be a whole other video, but I'm only making one of these videos, so you might as well watch it now. Um, when you're on a unit, this is inevitable. This is going to happen. One day, a female officer is going to walk through those gates. She's brand new, and all you men are going to act like morons because every one of you thinks you have a chance with her. So the guys, John and Billy, who were friends once, you know, now they're going to start butting heads all the time because they think they have a chance with this girl, right? Stay away from her. She's trouble. She's going to bring you nothing but trouble. I'm telling you. It happens all the time. I've seen it happen so many times. It's the funniest thing ever because 90% of the time, that woman has no intention of messing with you. And you know what? 95% of the time, that girl gets caught having sex with an inmate. It happens all the time. It's like they have this loser fetish. I have no idea why. There's like 5 billion guys out there, but they want to sleep with some dirty old inmate that probably has hepatitis or HIV. And if any women are out there watching this, do you have any idea how many of those inmates have STDs and other kind of diseases? I mean, it's insane, right? Because I feel so nasty talking about this, but it's true, man. I mean, they have sex with each other every day. Like that guy that comes up to you and he's all slick sounding and you think he's like freaking Fabio. That guy's gay. He's totally gay. Don't fool yourself. You know, these guys are in there by themselves. You see women running around in there? No. You know, I'm trying to give you a hard dose of reality if you want to do this job. So don't call me this or that and the other thing, you know, because I'm just telling you, this is what you're going to experience. This is what you're going to see when you go in there. But anyway, like I said, I'm trying to think of something else, man. I swear I could talk about this job for hours. You know, and I'm so glad I don't do it anymore. The reason why I don't do it anymore because I got stressed out one day and just said screw it after years of dealing with so much BS. And okay, this is something else I'd like to say. If you're that guy that always does his job, no matter what, you don't take flack off nobody. And I'm trying to describe myself because this was my experience. A lot of people are not going to like you. A lot of people. There's going to be 80% hate towards you from the officers. And then there's going to be like a 15-20% of these officers that love to work with you because they know when you're around, they're actually going to be able to get stuff done, you know? And there's, because you're constantly going to be working with some sergeant that's totally worthless. He's lazy. He's scared to death of the inmates. Doesn't know what the word no means. He just says yes, yes, yes to everything. Just don't beat me up. Like you're going to work for that guy, I promise you. And then you're going to get a sergeant that's complete opposite, and that guy's a superhero, man. That guy doesn't put up with nothing, you know, but he expects you to do your job. You're going to work with that guy, and shout out Crib. If you ever watch this, Sergeant Crib, you're awesome. But that guy was the guy I always loved working with because I knew I could get stuff done that day, and I knew I didn't have some lazy sergeant telling me to back down on everything because they were afraid to do their job. So anyway, if leave a comment, like, subscribe. If maybe you've already done this job, maybe share your experience. But this was my experience. I'm not trying to be hateful to anybody one way or the other. I'm just trying to give advice to somebody who might be sitting at home and they got no prospects, no ambitions of a job. They got no skills or anything. Because that was me. When I signed up, I didn't have anything going on for me, man. I just quit a job working on a roof for like the last 4.5 years. I had nothing going on for me. So I was like, hey, maybe I'll try this. And all my friends tried to talk me out of it because back then, all my friends were ex-cons. They all hated me after I took the job. And that's the other thing. If you're hanging out with ex-cons right now and you think you want to go into this line of work, you better stop hanging out with them. I promise you it's a bad idea to hang out with those people because one of them is inevitably going to try to hustle you and swindle you into smuggling contraband if they happen to know somebody in the same facility you're working at. And like I said, that is a phenomenally stupid idea because it's only going to end up in your misery, nobody else's. Trust me. But yeah, like I said, if you got a shared experience, whatever, just don't be negative, man. Nobody needs that. We got enough of that in the world. All right, guys. Common sense ain't common.